This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. One question I've seen pop up while preparing and talking about this game for the Cleveland Browns is a question of concern, some in good faith, some in bad faith, about Joe Flacco's age and playing on a short week. Because I think it is a natural concern, right? We're all worried about the wear and tear a player's body goes through. And we know naturally as a player gets older, their ability to get through that wear and tear and that gut and grind becomes more and more difficult. And you would have to imagine that playing on a short week is something that can't be fun for a player who's a little bit older than the median age in the NFL. So instead of being super irresponsible and just speculating based off of common knowledge and in general like thought processes, what I want to do is look at quarterbacks who played games on short weeks at ages 38 and above recently and see how those quarterbacks played and what on average those quarterbacks put up in those games. So when I did this, I found 5 quarterbacks. Of those 5 quarterbacks, I believe there are 12 games. Those 5 quarterbacks that we're going to be talking about: Brett Favre when he was 38, Brett Favre when he was 39, Peyton Manning when he was 38, Peyton Manning when he was 39, Drew Brees when he was 38, 39, 40, 41, Phillip Rivers when he was 38 and 39, Big Ben when he was 38 and 39. Those are the games that I'm sampling from. It's interesting too, because I believe like most of these games are road games. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 road games here in the sample, in 12 games total. And what I found out by looking at this is I don't really think the short week thing is real. Like, I think that guys who are 38 are perfectly capable of playing good football games or being capable of being themselves in these Thursday night football games on a short week, regardless of if they're playing home or away. Now, for the Browns, they're playing home. The split for home when it comes to win-loss records for these quarterbacks is 4-1. Only one quarterback I've measured lost a home game on a short week, and that was Big Ben. But that wasn't a Thursday night game. That was during the COVID year, and it was one of those weeks where the Steelers had their game delayed till Wednesday because of COVID restrictions and people not testing, and then they played on the following Monday. So they had 4 days rest. Usually Thursday night football is off 3 days rest, but I count it as a short week. It's the one time a team has lost on a short week with a 38-year-old or older quarterback that I was able to find of note in modern NFL history. But most of the times these guys were able to win. But winning's one thing. We want to know what the numbers look like. Well, again, we're talking about 12 games total. The numbers are actually like really impressive, to be honest with you. And one of the things I wanted to do, because I forgot to mention this disclaimer, Tom Brady's not going to be on this list. The reason Tom Brady's not going to be on this list is he has played so many years past 38, and he is Tom Brady, that it will break whatever data that you're going to get in there, right? Like if you add 6 years of data of Tom Brady on Thursday night football, it's going to look good no matter what the rest of the quarterbacks in that sample have done. You're just not going to get an accurate reading of the data. You're going to get an accurate reading of how good Tom Brady was after age 38, which we already know the answer to that. So I left Tom Brady out because he's the ultimate outlier in this sort of thing. And outliers should be left out in these kind of conversations. So that's why there's no Tom Brady here. I didn't want this getting super skewed. But still, even without Tom Brady, the numbers are very favorable to these 38-year-old quarterbacks. And it's why, after looking at that, I'm not too concerned about Joe Flacco's ability to perform on a short week. Just go over the cumulative numbers. So again, 12 games total that we're comparing between 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 quarterbacks. In total, these quarterbacks have thrown 26 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, and have thrown for 3,246 yards on 430 passing attempts with a quarterback rate of 100.4. So that is 100.5, my bad. A quarterback rate of 100.5. That is the total number. On average, these quarterbacks after the age of 38 on a short week went 24 of 35. This is just on a per game average. 24 of 35, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, 270 yards, and a win percentage of 66.2. In total, quarterbacks over the age of 38 playing Thursday night football or playing on a short week won 8 games and have lost 4. So those are the numbers. And the reason I wanted to do this is because this was something that, I had a bit of a concern about, right? He's 38 years old. You worry about the wear and tear. He has been getting hit a lot. How do these guys perform when they're older, when they're asked to play on less rest? And surprisingly enough, they're fine. Honestly, these numbers would suggest they're better than they usually are, right? Like they are better than they usually are. You usually get some of the better performances here, especially if you're playing that Thursday night game at home, which begs the question to me, and this would be another video entirely, like just how strong is that Thursday night football advantage, like that Thursday night football at home advantage. I talk about it all the time as being one of the biggest advantages in sports. But, when you look at stuff like this, it makes it more obvious. So that's what I looked at. I looked at the numbers. I saw that Joe Flacco is 38. I had a concern about Joe Flacco being 38 on a short week. And instead of just talking out the back of my neck, talking out my ass about how I think a 38-year-old quarterback shouldn't be able to play well on a short week, I actually took a couple minutes. Well, not a couple minutes. It actually took me a couple hours. Took a couple hours to find some quarterbacks over the age of 38. Get them all gathered up, put them in an Excel spreadsheet, and put their stats in there and actually see if what I was worried about was an actual problem. And I think it's important to remember to go through that process. It's something that I like to remind myself all the time, is that sometimes we talk about sports so much that we just get real comfortable making assumptions. Right? Assuming that something's true because it sounds like it be true, right? You hear a 38-year-old quarterback probably won't play well on Thursday night because it's a short week. And most people hear that and go, yeah, that feels right. But nobody's really looking that up, right? Like nobody's really looked that up or really thought about it. And this is my opportunity, while I have a platform to talk about the Browns, to do some of that stuff. So I wanted to come on here and talk about it in this way and bring it up as a conversation about not only can a 38-year-old quarterback or older quarterback play well on these short weeks, but how much, like at what point is somebody who is concerned about Joe Flacco because he's a little bit older, or who had some concerns about Joe Flacco, who has significantly less concerns now after seeing him play for 4 games. I do want to ask some of us who are holding out and still more skeptical than even I was, at what point do you just think that age won't be the concern for the immediate future, like for the rest of this season? Do you feel like age is still a concern? I think if he puts together a good game on Thursday night, the age isn't really a concern for me anymore. I'm not going to sit here and wait for the age shoe to drop, because if it would have dropped, it would have dropped a long time ago, right? But he seems like he's at a point with his body. He's taking care of himself to a point to where he's fine. He's able to recover. He's able to play. He's able to take a couple hits. He's fine. And look, I think the original skepticism that people had of somebody of his age being able to hold up week after week is valid, right? It's football. It's a violent sport. It's something that people in their early 20s struggle to stay healthy doing. So it wouldn't be surprising that people would be concerned about a 38-year-old trying to do that thing. But once that player has demonstrated that it's really not that big of a deal for them, and the trends have demonstrated that, hey, man, like this stuff, the short week stuff isn't that big of a deal, we do have to ask ourselves, when are we just going to let it go? And with Joe Flacco and his age thing, I think I'm at the point to where I have to let go of the fact that he's 38 simply because it just hasn't mattered. And if he has a bad game, I don't think that's going to be because he's 38. I think it's just going to be simply because he had a bad game, right? Same way if he has a good game, I don't think the conversation should be dictated about his age like it was when he first started playing, because I think he has outplayed those concerns at age 38. So, as far as that stuff, the immediate future, anything for the rest of this season, I don't think his age really matters as much as we felt like it could have. And that's a good thing if you're the Browns, right? That doesn't mean he's 28 again. Like, he's still not 28. He's still not in his prime. There are going to be things that he can't do physically that he used to be able to do easier when he was 28. But he's able to do enough of what made him special when he was 28 right now, to the point to where it's kind of a moot point. Like, he's still able to throw the ball deep. He's still able to be limber enough. He's still able to move athletically enough to escape pressure and not be a liability in the pocket. Like, one of the things I think is interesting about Joe Flacco is he avoids sacks better than somebody who is more younger and more athletic than him in Baker Mayfield, right? Like, Baker Mayfield was infamously awful at avoiding sacks. He would always take these slow sacks. Now, I don't know if he's done a better job with this in Tampa as he's gotten more experience in the league, but I remember that standing out where he just would be awful at taking these sacks, despite the fact that he's marginally more athletic than Joe Flacco. But Joe Flacco is better at avoiding these sacks and getting the ball out, not getting these tip balls, simply because he's bigger and he's athletic enough still, even at age 38. So once we're not really concerned about these things, and it's happened over the course of a month, I do think it's time for for me especially, to be like, all right, well, 38 don't matter, right? The Thursday Night Football numbers are telling me it's not really that big of a factor. There's really no correlation that tells me that he's going to struggle in this game. Honestly, the data tells me he's probably going to be good in this game, more than likely. Because that's what most quarterbacks who's gotten to his age and started games on a short week have been able to do. There have been players who put up clunkers in here, right? I think the one that stands out is Phillip Rivers at 38. But for the most part, most of these games being put up are pretty damn good. I mean, you got some 124s in here, like really good games put up. So at some point, you got to look at it and be like, okay, well, this thing I was concerned about turned out, for the immediate future, for what we're worried about for the rest of this season, it's not a concern. So that's my thoughts. Let me know your thought about that. Everybody have a great day. Have a better night. Peace.